You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hi, I'm Adam Draper, the host of Legal Heroes, where we hear the unsung stories about people putting in the work and making a difference. Today, we're turning the script a little bit. I've got Chad Franzen here of Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs, investors, and CEOs. And he's actually going to be interviewing me today for a change. Chad?
Hey, Adam. Great to see you. Great to talk to you. Thanks so much. Before we get started, I'll let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, where they deliver tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. At Gladiator Law Marketing, they use cutting-edge technology and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com or schedule a free marketing consultation. You can also send an email to adam@gladiatorlawmarketing.com. Hey, Adam, great to be here. Thank you so much. Tell me, why are you starting this podcast?
Yeah, there's a lot of different reasons that go into it. And I think there's a lot of different companies out there that have been starting podcasts, and that's not necessarily something new. I think you, the expert on podcasts, can probably tell me, when it got first started and how long it's been around. But it was important to us to have a different spin on it, and not do things just the same as everybody else. And a huge mantra of our own company is putting other people first, being very people focused. We're a family-owned business. A lot of the people that work for us have worked for us for years and even decades, and we wanted to try to develop something that allowed other people to give back in some way to the people in their own lives or the causes that were important to them. And so we wanted to be very positive, to give people lots of opportunities to to share happiness and joy. And so the Legal Heroes is really meant to be, kind of a twofold process. Is one, giving people the opportunity and the voice to talk about causes that are of significance to them and things that they think need more recognition out there. And that could be different bills that are going through the state legislatures, or maybe it's community involvement. Just, things that they're involved with in their own life that they want more people to know about. And then also the people that are in their life that, maybe don't get the recognition that they feel. So, it's really developed to give back and to help other people have a voice that maybe don't have a podcast of their own to do so.
Who would you say the show is for?
Well, obviously with the legal backgrounds that we have, and just the name in general, the guests and the main focus of the show would be people that are in the legal community, whether that's attorneys or judges, or maybe it's non-practicing attorneys that are teaching. There's a lot of different guests and directions that we could go with it. And so it's certainly going to be focused on that. But once we start to interview more people and we cover more concepts and we talk about, more people, then I think it's going to grow, and the people that it's going to be targeted for is going to change. So we don't really want to limit ourselves too much. I mean, I think it's important to have direction, going in it. Otherwise, you're just kind of throwing things at a wall, and I don't think that's a smart way to go when you're creating something new. But I do think that, as we delve into different concepts, ideas, different communities, I think that's something that'll probably change and adapt as the show changes and adapts.
So tell me a little bit about you. What was your background coming into Gladiator Law Marketing, and kind of how you came up with the idea for
Oh
Gladiator
goodness.
Law Marketing?
Yeah, you and I haven't talked about this, so this will be a little bit different. I had a bit of a unique um, 20s when I was getting my first start as an adult out of college. But I actually was in the Air Force for about 8 years, just under 8 years, and I was a navigator. So if you're a Top Gun fan, think Goose instead of Maverick.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting my final station was in Clovis, New Mexico. I was a navigator on a couple of different variants of the C-130, so MC-130s to start, and then transitioned over to AC-130 gunships, and was part of the Air Force Special Operations community there, and deployed a couple of times, and then ended up getting out of the military I spent a year as a sales rep for GlaxoSmithKline, selling pharmaceuticals down in Fort Myers, Florida, and it just wasn't the next best step for me. But coming out of the military, I always had a bit of an interest in entrepreneurship, and so when I started to kind of get the feeling that that wasn't going to work out long term, I started looking into opportunities to get into business ownership. Coming out of the military, I really didn't feel like that was going to be a small step, going from military to entrepreneur all at once. And so I wanted to have an intermediary there. And I ended up working with a consultant from the Small Business Development Center out of FCGU that was there in Fort Myers to look at various businesses. And what I quickly realized is that if a business is for sale, it is typically for sale for a reason. It's usually not doing well, and or maybe they're trying to get out of it, and they've been trying to get out of it. It's not hasn't been tended to quite as well as you would want. And so I just had a very difficult time finding a business that I felt was going to be doable for me. And my mentor down there, Dave, ended up telling me I should start walking into businesses that were successful and not for sale, but maybe were run by people that were a little bit older that were wanting to get out and didn't have an exit plan, and to offer to buy it. And I kind of semi took that advice, except and I ended up turning internal to my family. And my sister, Lisa Vaughn, who owns the company with me now, actually um, started Gladiator. And Gladiator had been around for a little over a year before I had approached her about joining in the partnership. And she actually owned another major law firm marketing agency that's still out there today. And I think they had about 50 employees when she ended up leaving and selling her shares of that. So it wasn't a small shop by any means. And she had uh, started Gladiator because she wanted to get back to the stuff that she enjoyed the most, which was being a designer and working with law firms a little bit closer. And when you're running an agency with 50 people, you don't really get to spend a lot of your time being a designer. You're dealing with other things. And she had actually grown Gladiator back up to the point that she was doing a lot of that work that she just didn't enjoy. And so I came to her and pitched the idea of coming on and doing the things that she didn't want to do to free her up to be able to spend her time working on designs and doing the things that she likes. And so I joke that my big sister's been telling me what to do my whole life, and it ended up working out pretty good for both of us, I think.
Sure. How long have you been with Gladiator then?
So 2014 was when I started looking into it, the middle of 2014, and then officially January of 2015. And then the company was started January of 2013. So it had been 2 years old by the time that I had actually joined.
What would you say during that time have been kind of some high points or moments that you're particularly proud of?
I think just growing it and getting it to the point that it's sustainable. And one of the things again, I said we're very people focused,
Mhm.
and so I try to make sure that the company meets a lot of people's needs, not just mine. While I like to grow the company, just like anybody, that has a business, growth isn't necessarily always my number one driver. If you look at startups, they have that mantra of grow fast and break things, and I think a lot of times the stuff that they break, they don't go back and fix. And a lot of times the stuff that they break is not part of their company; it's external. So they kind of create this era of madness and chaos, and that's not necessarily something that we want to do here. We're very much making sure that we take care of people, and whether that's me and my sister or the people that work with us or for us or our clients that we're working for. And so I think that the things that I'm most proud of is being able to do that. And we do a good job of trying to make sure that the environment that we have here continues to provide benefits to everybody that's involved. And my sister Lisa, she gets to spend her time doing design work, and that's something that it took us many years to work to. She didn't just get to stop being the CEO and owner of the company, the day one when I got on, because I didn't know anything about this industry or the legal world. I had to learn that over many many years, and so we were able to get her to that point. My mother, or our mother, works for the company, and so we're able to. And she's changed roles a couple of times, but we're able to give her some extra retirement income. And there's various employees that have changed roles because they have different life events, and they needed a company that could be flexible. And I would say that's probably what I'm most proud of is getting the performance from our clients, and being able to be there for employees.
So you were a navigator in the Air Force. That's a pretty unique kind of life experience, pretty cool life experience. Not everybody, has the ability or can do that or has done that. What have you kind of taken from that has carried over to Gladiator Law Marketing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly more of a lifestyle than it is a job. There are times where you drive around with a bag packed in your car because you don't know if you're going to be able to go home if you get a phone call. And so you're always leaving, or not always, but when you're on call and you've got the pager, you kind of leave your life in a way that you can drop it at any moment. And there's some excitement to that, but it's also, um, you give up a lot to live that lifestyle. And being in a special operations community, I think from the outside world, a lot of times the tech, especially with the Air Force, right? The Air Force and the Navy, like, I mean, it's so much about the gadgets and the gizmos and, the airplanes and stuff like that, that a lot of times you lose focus, on the people in there. But it really is the people that make special operations special and unique. And I think growing up, as someone in their young 20s and hasn't had a whole lot of work experience, getting to see the work ethic and the skill sets and the knowledge and what it takes to really perform at that high of a level, and seeing the commitment that other people put into it, it broadens it up. Like, if you don't have people in your life that you can see that are working harder, that are getting better performance than you, it's difficult to know where to put the bar for yourself, right? And so being able to see other people that are in a community that really expects and demands, world class results for your given profession, I would say that is what I carry over the most, because it um, allows me to set the bar higher, for myself and for others. Knowing that there are people out there that have much higher bars than what I have, and I think one of the big things is just knowing that your competition is always working out there, right? And so you never want to set your bar lower than what your competition's setting.
You said you kind of pride yourself with Gladiator Law on meeting people's needs. Would you say that's the main reason that clients might choose you, or are there other benefits or uniqueness about your company?
Well, I mean, you never want to lose sight that marketing is about getting clients, right? Cases, regardless of how friendly and how good of terms that you're on with the businesses that you support. At the end of the day, it's a business decision, and you've got to make sure that you're producing results for the clients. There are certainly some problems and issues that other agencies might run into that we don't, because of our nature. I think that we do a very good job of building trust with our clients. They know that we're going to be just as frugal with their budget as we would be with our budget or our own money. We're not going to waste it. We're going to tell them, what is best for them and not necessarily what is best for us, and be honest and transparent about everything that we do. And that trust really goes a long way. When you've got a client that is going to respect what you tell them, and not constantly uh, propose counters to what you're saying, it's easier to get stuff done and to stay on the same page. And that's not to say that clients don't have good input, that's important, and we can kind of change based off of that. But certainly having that people focus, it does help with the relationship manner, which is important. I mean, it is a partnership between the client and the agency at the end of the day.
Can you give me an example or some examples of maybe clients who came to you and were in a certain situation, and then you guys did your thing and their life was different?
Oh yeah, I mean that, and a lot of times we're able to do that without them even becoming a client, which I know isn't necessarily the end goal, but that does also set us apart. And if we're not the right fit for whatever reason, we still try to point people in the right direction and make it work. And uh, we get all sorts of things that come in, and I think attorneys are just in a bad spot because they don't get any business training.
Hmm.
They're not in school, and when they're getting their going through their JD, they're not trained how to run a business. They don't understand marketing, and maybe they're able to take it upon themselves to teach themselves. But if they're too busy and they are able to successfully grow their business, it's difficult to carve that time away. And there's a lot of marketers that know that, and a lot of salesmen that know that are trying to get their commissions, and oftentimes take advantage of attorneys because they know that a lot of attorneys make good money, so they've got the money to spend on marketing. And then because they don't have that background in business, and I'll also say that when people don't understand something, a lot of people, their initial reaction is to just push it away, right? Like kind of close their eyes to it.
Hmm.
And it is interesting that within the legal community, I mean, most lawyers, they have a job because of problems, right? Because
Right.
of disagreements, because someone else got taken advantage of, and they do a lot of due diligence on behalf of their clients. And when it turns into something they don't understand, when they don't have the training in business like they do law, it's interesting to see how often that they're willing to turn a blind eye, and they'll just write a check or sign an agreement without giving it a whole lot of thought in the same due diligence. And I think there's just a certain amount of anxiety that comes into that. So certainly our approach, I think, when they're open to it, um, and that is kind of one of the difficult aspects of it, is that if they're um, have too much anxiety about it. I mean, we are very consultative in our nature, and so I think that can sometimes put some people off. But if they're willing to kind of work with us and to do their part, and I think they end up appreciating it. So, kind of back to what your question was, like, are there people that come in that we help that are in a bad situation? Yeah, like those are actually our best clients, because they've been with another agency, they've already had some experience and kind of seen the pitfalls, and so then we can come in and be like, hey, this didn't work because of this, and you need to do these things, and this is the best path forward, and how we do things. And it's actually more challenging when we get a client that's never done marketing before, because then they don't know the difference, right? They've never had an agency build a website, and then the fine print, says that the law firm doesn't own it, right? Which you think is crazy, but that happens all the time. People pay for things and then realize they don't actually own it. It's just kind of on a license. And so by able to do things more transparently and put our clients first, at a minimum, they're at least going to be set up and have things that they can use to build from and to grow from. Um, yeah, I
Without
mean,
giving
there's
away
all
any.
sorts of crazy stories.
Sure.
Go
Do you
ahead.
have one for me?
Oh, I think probably one of the worst things that we see are attorneys that take out loans of some kind. And it's crazy to see agencies encourage lawyers to take out loans to be able to pay for the marketing. And I mean, I saw um, one attorney that took out a $70,000 loan to pay for a website design, which is nuts because that's multiples times, what you should be paying, and so to be able to go into them and kind of explain, which is difficult, right? When they just spent $70,000 on a website, it doesn't work, right? Like it's hard to, explain that away, but we could at least go in and, show them what they needed to do and to move that away. But there are all sorts of attorneys that, come to us that don't have the basics set up, that, don't know how to get their online presence established through Google. And they also just don't know the very basics of how it works, and we're getting better, but even just reviews and basic reputation metrics, a lot of law firms don't put any effort into it. And if you don't put any effort into it, you should expect not to have great results. But there are a lot of attorneys and law firms out there, they're doing great things, that if they just get their own clients to leave a review, leave a testimonial, that they would get a lot more results from that.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? I can go on a web. I can go on Wix or something and make my own website. What do you guys do? Kind of beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the budget that you have, and also the expectations. I think the biggest problem that you can make is to have a small budget and have too big of expectations. You mentioned Wix and Squarespace and some of these do-it-yourself options out there, and they're great. They work well. Like, I mean, I've designed a couple of websites with them, but there's a reason that most professional businesses don't use those, and they're just not as um, flexible for what you're going to use with an ongoing campaign. And so the main difference is what we do is going to be fully custom, whereas we're actually going to design everything using Adobe Photoshop and then develop a proof, which is just a static still image of what the website's going to look like. And then we apply custom programming. And so, there's two things in there. One, if you go with what we call there's a couple different ways you can call it: a drag and drop editor, or what you see is what you get is another one. But that's, basically you're just dragging the boxes around, and what you end up with is something that is going to look very cookie cutter, right? I mean, it's obvious, that it wasn't custom. You're going to be limited on the shapes and the styles and different things. And so when you have a fully custom site, like, it's going to look more professional. It's going to have that pop to it, and it's going to, make you stand out and be more aligned with what you're trying to tell about your brand. And then on the programming side, those drag and drop editors, well, you've got to have that software built in, right? And so that's more software that kind of bogs down the site. It's a software that is meant to be off the shelf and be accessible and usable for a wide variety of different businesses and websites. Whereas when we custom program it, it's going to have everything that you need and nothing that you don't. So it's going to be more efficient, and that efficiency is seen potentially higher rankings in just a faster website that is typically going to have not as many problems and a longer longevity to it. So you should be able to get anywhere between 3 and 5 years of a lifespan, with a custom site.
Okay. Is there anything else we should know about Gladiator Law Marketing or about your upcoming podcast?
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, I think with the podcast, you just got to stay tuned and hopefully find something that you're going to like, and maybe be a guest with us and talk about, what's passionate for you. But for the business side of things, I mean, we love working with firms that want to grow to some extent, right? Like, you've got to have some ambition that you want more cases than you currently have, and that doesn't mean that you have to grow into some multi-state conglomerate. Maybe you don't want to hire additional attorneys, but you want to be busier than what you are. But love working with law firms, across all the different practice areas and different geographies. And we work with rural firms. We work with firms that are in top 5 markets in the United States. And it's all about figuring out what the business strategies and the business goals of that law firm are, and then kind of pairing it up with what we do. So we do focus almost exclusively on consumer-based practice areas, personal injury, criminal defense, divorce, family law, employment, things like that. Occasionally, we'll do some small business practice areas, but typically, to make that work, you've got to be in a larger market. Just because if you're in a small 30,000 person town, there's usually not enough business, and so we end up working with general practice attorneys usually in those cases. But yeah, certainly, if someone is having a difficult time with their existing agency, or they're getting off and trying to start their own marketing, we'd be happy to talk to them.
Okay. Hey, Adam, thanks so much. It's been great talking to you, and best wishes moving forward.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.